What sort of timber were these splitters after, Jay?
The paling and shingle splitters and post and rail splitters, they were taking out the hardwood logs, the messmates and mountain ash, and some of the guns which split very well. They were taking the timbers out from them. Then there were others that took out the blackwood logs. They went out for it pretty early. And then there was the musk trees. The musk trees were amazing, and they were all over the mountain. And then they were very, very, very prolific in some areas. And they had butts. It's like a tuber. It's something like a big mallee root. And actually, I think it is a big mallee root. There's a name for it. What do they call it? But they were a massive lump of wood that was full of knots, where the young shoots of the musk shot up from the bulb, and they became known as bird's eye. And they split them. It slabs up to 6 feet by 4, and maybe 4 or 5 or 6 inches thick. And they cut them up with a hand saw, a big crosscut saw, cut them into slabs. And they went away mainly, I believe, to Germany. But then, of course, also there was the sassafras tree. Now, the sassafras tree, according to Hardy's map, the sassafras tree was growing in the area where Isaac Gee's built his home, and that is at the 800-foot contour. The sassafras trees were down as far as that. Well, they were taken out at that time, because there were none left on the mountain when I was up. And so the blackwood, the sassafras, the musk, and then there was another one, the banksia. The banksia, which of course is a lovely wood. It's a white wood, but it's beautifully figured wood. And some of the trees were upwards of 3 feet diameter. I myself have seen them 2 foot 6 diameter. In fact, I handled a piece of one of them, and that was growing on just alongside the Mount Dandenong road, where the kindergarten is, present-day kindergarten. It was on the upstream side, right in the gully on the upstream side of Wombat Creek from the kindergarten.
Oh, yes.
And that was used a lot. And of course, Richardson, he lined his house with the banksia. Those were very, very valuable wood, a lot of them. But the great trees on the mountain top, most of the great trees on the mountain top, the very, very big ones, the 20-footers, 20 foot through, I mean, they were useless. Most of them were hollow and they were completely over mature. So the wood would be of very little value. But there were a lot of young trees, because the habit of the mountain ash is, if a fire goes through, the seed which it has shed over perhaps centuries, they're brought to life, and the seedlings come up in a terrific thicket, and they grow very, very tall, very fast and very tall, and up there of course they grow very tall and very fast and very big. And of course a lot of them would be high-class paling trees. So the splitters cut the mountain ash paling trees and thinned them out a lot. The mills didn't touch them, because in those days mountain ash was considered to be useless timber.
Really?
Yes, and the settlers, when they came, of course, they just cut the logs into lengths, rolled them together and burnt them. Whereas the modern day sawmiller would have got glorious flooring out of it, yes. Glorious shelving timber.
Yes.
Where was the original settlement, Alan?
The original settlement went up as far as the garage, you know, Linda. I was showing Wayne recently where the first splitters hut, Holden's hut, was the first dwelling in Linda of any sort, splitters hut.
Yes. He didn't actually live here, did he? Well, he lived here, but he wasn't.
They worked there, but their home was in Doncaster.
Now, your grandfather, who came here in between 1876 and 7, I believe he took a year to settle in, going back and forth. He was the first here. The others followed, and I believe settled further down in the valley. Who were they, Alan?
Oh, very big. And on that side, it was up the top here with barns.
Yes.
And the next below us were Lunds. And then the famous family of Bruce, Lord Bruce's family.
Yes.
The famous Doon Gallen.
Oh, yeah. Who was the fellow there? Forgotten about.
Fellow Butler was a man named Davies.
Yes.
Sir Matthew Davies.
That's right, yeah. Was another man who came to the district before the hills were thrown open for selection. I am talking with his daughters, Daisy and Else. What can you tell me about the early life of your father?
Their dad was born in Ballarat, or around Ballarat or Linton. Ballarat, Linton and Snake Valley was three places he was always talking about, but I don't know which actually he came from, but they're all very close.
His parents were probably involved in the gold rush.
They were, yes. One of his uncles was, anyway, because of many years, I know Dad used to look for he had shares in it apparently, and it gradually dwindled until there wasn't any coming.
What was in the village when your dad first came here?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Except Bartram's hut.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what about Holden's hut? Was that there?
Family, very old.
He was the first. Well, according you don't know about this, no, but according to Muriel, Helen Wells, it was called Holden's Range, where we are.
That's right.
Named after Holden, who came to split timber, but he didn't really live here permanently. He had a hut where the present, well, it's the corner store, whatever's there now, keeps changing hands. Very old. It was just a rough slab hut, so it would hardly be called well.
Possibly Bartram's hut, it may be one and the same hut.
What sort of a man was John Ebbels?
You never heard Pop sort of like we do, we'd stand and swear and curse on somebody rather for doing something or other. He didn't that much else, did he? You know, I remember him about...
He never used to criticise people.
No, but I can remember him saying about that church out they built out. What's it, the Methodist church out Canara Road or something? And I'd hope he was upset about that and what it was happening, something there.
Oh, he probably did a lot of the work and supplied the material.
I think that's what he said, that he'd never go to church going, you know, he's a bit upset about it.
That would be most likely what it was.
But to me, it seems a strange place to build it. But was there more settlement up there?
There was,
Yes.
out back at the end.
Yes.
Pop was the only music in the hills originally.
Oh, gee, Father.
Oh, you go on forever.
You know, I'm not joking. People would sit there and they were absolutely, well, could have mildly buggered. They couldn't keep dancing. You know, and Pop would be still going and they'd sit down and get someone else
He was the only one who played for dances and that sort of thing.
Where did you sung in the hall, I suppose? You had
Down the
to
hall. But you could hear Pop singing when you're coming up past the cuckoo, coming over the valley there. Oh, yeah, come over there. And when he was what is he, 94, 95 when he died? Well, the hokey girl, I'm getting old, he said. I can't sing like I used to. My voice is not as strong.
And if he's still going to sing it, they laughed too. He must have been into his late 70s, I suppose, when your kids were little. And he'd be down playing marbles with him. He'd up and say, oh gee, I could stick there, you know, down on his knees playing marbles with the kids.
Marbles, amazing.
And what made Pop like that and why he lived to the age he did, he never sort of worried, did he? You know, about what went on in the world in a sort of way. He had his own philosophy or something about it.
So he had enough worries with making a living and...
Yes.
Up to 1920, say, they grew a lot of berries in Olinda. What happened to that industry? Why haven't we got it going now?
You see, we couldn't compete with them like the silver people, for instance. We'd be 3 weeks later than theirs commencing. By the time ours commenced, well, a lot of people, they had all they wanted of strawberries, or else we'd be more susceptible to diseases, stem rot and thrip. Talking about thrip with this on the grass telling about here. His son said to me one day, how's the trip? See, he meant thrip, you see. So I said, oh, all right, had a good trip, you know. I just said that for a joke. I hadn't had any trip. So he said, oh, he said, you'd laugh at my old man. He calls trip tripe.
Well, how would it take strawberries, raspberries, gooseberries, peas, beans, carrots, turnips into market? And strawberries were 5 pence a box and they cost us 4 and halfpenny to produce. Couldn't sell them, and they'd take them to one of the hospitals or an orphanage. Sometimes they'd accept them, sometimes they wouldn't, because others had already been. And yet the old, you know the common old Montbretia?
Yes.
And the Ostrameria?
Yes.
Well, I used to get 3 a bunch for a bunch of Montbretia, 6 a bunch for Ostrameria, and there was never a bunch came back, they were all sold. And it looks as though people sooner have flowers than food, doesn't it? And that kept us in, they kept us in shoes and boots, and then I made the kids' clothes out of any of my aunts or anyone gave us clothes, because they were good material, made all their clothes.
Yeah. Then how often did you go into the city, into town?
Oh.
To the market.
Oh, of course you go to the market. You go to the city all the
Oh,
time.
otherwise we'd, perhaps once in 6 months, you just didn't have the money for the fare those days. When Bruce was 18 months, Ron would be 4, Bruce was 18 months, we walked down, you know, the road, Shanks Road, opposite the hotel. We walked down to the basin, and we were almost there. Bruce, this 18-month-old, walked nearly all that way. And then we got a bus shilling into Brony Station. We went down to see my mother.
Yeah.
Leave in the afternoon.
Yes.
Get in there from market early next morning.
Yes.
And all by horse and spring cart or anything. Some of them had wagons. It's a big procession of wagons from Olinda after the settlement up there. They leave in the afternoon. I just love market in my country.
When you went, did you, from Olinda, not so much from here, from Olinda, did you go down that old coach road from...
Yes.
Come down to Whitbread.
Whitbread's Hill. got an old road down from Mount Dandenongs. Yeah. The ones on that side then used it. Yeah. The ones that all up on Ferny Creek and Linden. Montauk went down through Belgrade. Yeah. The settlers in Montauk all came up through our private road up through here originally.